The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Stage Door Show. Tonight, this is Dave Hondel. Tonight, my guest is an amazing Grammy-nominated multi-platinum record-selling producer, songwriter, and A&R who's worked with iconic artists including Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Keith Sweat, Joe, and the list is endless from there. He is the director of A&R at the Singers Company, where he and his staff work with emerging artists around the world. We're honored to have him on the show tonight, so please welcome Roy Hamilton III to the show. Thank you for being with us, Roy.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we're so honored to have you on. And first of all, I wanted to, this is for our listeners. We have a lot of young listeners that are artists themselves. And so talk about what an A&R does for an artist.
Right. Well, we'll start with the letter A. That's for artists. The R is for repertoire. And my job, simply put, is helping the singer, become a recording artist, with helping them find the right songs or make the right songs that really showcase not only their unique voice, but the message that they want to get across. And it's a slow process. It takes time. It takes a lot of getting to know the artist personally and creatively. And the relationship becomes, very symbiotic. And, if the trust factor is there, and A&R can do their job really, really well, because can almost become a spokesperson for the artist and know what to bring them, what doesn't work, and just be that person to the artist, to help them get their vision out.
If there's one thing to me that sticks out in a bad way for an artist, is if they're given wrong direction by the record company or by, whoever they're working with. And, but talk about the importance of that direction for a young artist, especially not only in the studio, but outside of the studio, how to treat people, how to be professional. And, because one misstep on social media, because we're in a different world now than it was back in the day when we didn't have social media. So talk about when you work with artists, you talk about the importance of directing them in the right way of not only the stage presence, but also just being a professional.
Absolutely. So, we had a thing when we were coming up. I'm sure you remember media training, things like this at a record label level and things like this. So I was fortunate enough to have some of that training personally, because I had record deals when I was younger as well. I was signed to RCA at one point. I had a deal over at Capitol Records, not as a director, but also as an artist at one point. I had different record deals. So I remember we used to get a lot of this training, and we knew, what to say, what not to say. I think because artist development has become such a lost art, a lot of that stuff is missing. So what we do is we talk about these things with the artists too. We want to help them understand that we're still in a people-driven business. So, if you rub a person the wrong way, they're not going to want to work hard for you if they feel like, you're not a nice person, because this music business, it's a machine that is run by actual people with feelings and, people. I always tell young people that. So, luckily for us, we usually work with artists who are usually 9 times out of 10, very, very pleasant, come from, good backgrounds. The thing we struggle with is just getting artists to understand that it's a patience game. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to be patient when you're young. So, we give them grace for that. It's like, okay, we just try to, just remember, it's going to take time. Everything doesn't have to happen like now. So that teen angst or that young angst that people have, we just try our best to manage expectations and, guide,
Yeah, I think a nice analogy would be, and I always use this in the record or the music business or TV or anything, is that it's like a quarterback being a backup quarterback, or a red shirt in a college football team, where you take a year to absorb and watch, the person that's ahead of you and learn from them, learn from their successes, but also learn from their failures as well. Yes. And by the time you get to that point, you're already seasoned and then you already know the business, but you're not out there to the world yet, but you know the business better when you are out there. So I think you become a more successful artist. Is that true?
I believe so. Yeah, being able to watch a bit and be a good apprentice and learn, yeah, definitely helps. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that for sure. Yeah, but I also love the way the way Motown approached artist development too. And I'm definitely a student, by way of documentaries and research, that they were big on artist development in that way too, like media training and just knowing how to network and how to work a room and how to present yourself and all of these things. So yeah, there's an education to be had in this if you're going to go all the way. If you're going to make that transition from being a singer to a recording artist, you got a trip to go on.
I know you have a big name in the music business. Your grandfather, your father, and now yourself. You really grew up in the business, and so talk about growing up in that business, because I mean it was around you all around, and I mean I'm sure people outside of your family didn't realize what you knew. I mean, so when you got older, I mean, it was probably an easier transition for yourself to get into that business, but it's still not easy work, still hard work. So talk about your journey. Being in the music business, growing up, but also, when you kind of ventured out on your own, did that make a difference? And did you, obviously take that, that growing up in the music business to heart and kind of help you in your own career?
Yeah, I did. In some ways, I was definitely more advanced. I was more advanced technology wise, because my dad was also, making albums. And, 1993, 1994, we had computers in my home, like music equipment that, it was there, and I would sneak in there and use it while my dad was at work, and sneak some of the guys from high school over to make demos. And I got in trouble sometimes because dad didn't want me touching his equipment, but I couldn't help myself because I just had that drive to be a producer. I think I knew from then, I'm like, I like this job, right? So I would always, I just wanted, it's your thing when you're driven to do it. It's almost like it pulls you, right? It's like my parents never had to be like, oh, work on your music, or I just wanted to do it. It's what I wanted to do. So I had a technological advantage, I think, going in. And I didn't realize that I did know quite a bit about the business side of it, mostly because I used to go to meetings and stuff with my parents when they were trying to fight it out for my grandfather's royalties and stuff that were unaccounted for. So I was young, running around the room, but apparently like I was absorbing, words and vocabulary and things. So, later on, some of that stuff definitely, I was like, oh, okay, I know what this means, or I know what that means. I think since a young age, I've always just had a good sense, and I always tell people, just trust your instincts, trust your gut. Like I always had a really good gut intuition about things like people. And, if I didn't feel a situation, I was the person that would just leave. I'll walk away from a bad situation and not really feel bad about it. Like, it just doesn't, I would just like call my parents back, hey, like this isn't really working out. I want to come home, and my parents have always been super supportive. So yeah, in those ways, I definitely feel like I had a bit of an edge and an advantage for sure coming up.
Well, and I know we've been talking about your journey a little bit, but for our listeners, you had a part, whether being a producer or being an A&R for record companies, you had a part in 70 million record sales, which is amazing. That's unheard of. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that 70 million.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, that's unbelievable. And, and talk about working with the likes of Michael Jackson and Beyonce. And, I listened to an interview that you gave that, you walked into the studio and Michael Jackson and the producer, where they were vibing with each other. They just knew, like, you didn't have to say anything to each other. They just absolutely knew that, that they were on the right track with that song. So talk about working with a Michael Jackson and just talk about the work ethic that he had.
Okay. So it was really because of Teddy Riley. So Teddy Riley became a really good mentor to me early on. Jive Records actually connected Teddy and I to work on the song called Stutter.
And that's Clive Davis, Jive Records, right?
Clive Calder.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I used to I used to go to Teddy's studio, and Ted, he liked the stuff I was working on. He was always showing me how to improve my productions, and I really admired Teddy, and I really grateful to him because he was one of those mentors that he wasn't a gatekeeper, man. He like showed me what to do. It's like, he's like, bring your files, bring the files down to the studio, and we work on it together. So I actually learned with him and from him about being a record producer. I really appreciate him for that. And one day he just called me. He's like, "Hey man, you got anything for Michael Jackson?" I was like, "No, but if you give me 2 days, we will." No,
Wait a second. What happened when you hung up the phone? Come on.
oh man, listen. I'm just gonna get to the short version. So I didn't have at the time when he called me, I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything for Michael. It was one of those things where I said, "Okay, we don't have anything right now. But we're gonna make some records." So I think me and my writing partners at the time, we must have recorded, man, maybe a dozen ideas. Not even full songs, like choruses, verses, verse choruses. And the one that they liked the most was the one that had a bit of an interpolation from the Ronald Isley song "Shout." You make me want to
Oh,
shout.
yeah, absolutely.
Throw my
Yeah.
hands up and shout. Yeah, so that's that
Iconic
hook.
song. Yeah.
It's a piece of that hook that's in the "Shout" song that we ended up, having on that Michael album.
Yeah.
And Teddy heard it. He liked it. He played for Michael. Michael liked it, and before I knew it, I was called to come to Sony Studios to sit in the studio while I worked on the song. Definitely
Amazing.
one of the best. Definitely one of the best. Man, one of the best. Yeah, sessions and days that I had. And again, watching them, it's like telepathy, man. It's like all this energy in the room, and like they weren't really talking to each other. Like Michael was dancing, and it was a thing, man. It's hard to describe.
I mean, you got to see it firsthand, and
Yes.
what an honor to, first of all, to have that song in there, but just it's a testament to your talent that the likes of Michael Jackson would put a part of your your piece in his song. And kudos to you on everything that you've done, because you worked with like some of the biggest iconic names, and you yourself a renowned producer and A&R. You're also the director of A&R for Capitol Records, and I understand you also, when you left Capitol after your contract, took a year off, and when you came back, you went to the Berklee School of Music, which for anybody who knows music, that's like that's like Juilliard for dance. I mean, it's like Berklee College of Music is everything, because the digital is the way of the future. Obviously, at that time for music, it was kind of moving from cutting a vinyl album and CDs and cassettes to going digital, which completely changed the game, not only for for artists, but for consumers. Obviously, instead of buying a full album, they could buy their own favorite song, or a series of songs or whatever. So you knew that was going to happen. So you actually took it upon yourself to learn the business more and come back even stronger, and which led you to the Singers Company. So talk about the company, that you're director of A&R for, the Singers Company, Canada, United States, everywhere around the world. You have folks from Sweden and I believe everywhere working for your company. So talk about that, because I think it's an amazing concept, and talk about some of your artists that you work with there.
Yeah. So right at the end of my time at Capitol, I knew what was going on, and a lot of people did, right? And there were high level people losing their jobs, and it was just at that time it wasn't streaming yet. It was the downloading. It was the illegal downloads.
Right.
That was causing the problem. Yeah, that's what was causing the problem. We had only heard whispers of streaming and this thing called Spotify back then, maybe even Spotify, maybe just streaming. So yeah, I took that year off after, because I left. I was fortunate to finish my entire contract, because I wasn't one of the higher paid people. So when the merger happened and some people got a chance to go back east, and I was already from the East Coast, living in New Jersey at the time. Yeah, I just was able to finish my contract and just smoothly transition over. And at the end of that, though, I'd already made up in my mind that I was either I was either going to go to seminary to become a pastor, or I was going to go to music school again, because I felt like the first time around, I was, it was instinct that got, instinct, genetics, my family upbringing. But I kind of felt like the business was changing enough to where if I was going to go back into music, I needed to understand where it was going. And I'm glad I did. So I put myself through this accelerated program for music business masters and artist management. And it was all, like you say, about the future of music. Everything we learned was about Spotify and all these things. And it's like rewiring my brain, to see things differently, to see things more open. And before that, the music business felt like closed. Felt like no one really understood how it worked. It was like night and day. So yeah, I'm glad I did that. And then that led to my mentor, Wayne Williams. I got to shout out Wayne, because Wayne was one of the founders at the Singers Company too, and him and Jeff Watson and some of us got together who all have so much experience working with singers. We just decided to start it. And at the time I was here in Toronto working on another company consulting. And when that consultancy ended, the inspiration came to me. It's like, we'll start this company now. And we had a good year. We had the launch event at the beginning of 2019, and Wayne Williams came and did like this great singer-songwriter workshop to meet with a small group of artists and hear all of their songs and, give his advice on the music and all of that. And then we had the whole year of 2019 of artists coming over from different places, and mostly from the States. Back home, artists would come over because some of them had never been to Toronto. And we had artists from Italy and the UK. This one girl found us because her grandfather loved Elvis Presley, and she somehow researched that I'm the grandson, and that happened. So we had all these cool things that was happening. Then the pandemic happened and the world shut down. So we went all virtual. And that's how I think the most growth, like how you said about your business too.
Right.
That was a time where before that, I'd never made a record virtually before. Because remember, I'm from the old school. I'm like a hybrid of the old school and new school.
Right. Yeah,
absolutely. So everything I'd ever made was in the room. I didn't even, I was like, wait, you can make a record, you can work with an artist on Zoom. What is Zoom? First of all, what is Zoom? Second of all,
reel to reel analog. Now we're looking at digital.
I was like, wait, what is Zoom? So once I got past that learning curve, then it was like, oh man, this is really cool. So for those 3.5 years, man, a little room in my house became the studio. And when they started opening things up a little bit, I would go to a studio just to get out the house, really, to one of the private studios that I had access to. But for the most part, we had our weekly A&R meetings, and got together, and we just kept it together until things opened back up. And now we have a new studio space in Toronto again that we opened in December. And we're going on almost a year of having a physical location. It's definitely raised the morale. Artists love coming here. It's just a good energy. So and kind of gave myself this particular role because I enjoy A&R work. I just enjoy sitting with the artists and listening to their songs and helping put the right teams together. Sometimes I don't even get to produce the record, which is fine because I got these talented producers around me that have these cutting edge ideas and sounds, and I just like being in the room. So that's my gig. That's what I do.
Talk about some artists that are out there looking kind of maybe not finding their way yet, because a lot of times with streaming, obviously everybody can put out their own music and stream, and podcasts like myself, I put my own stuff out, but I think with your company, I think you could take somebody to the next level, because somebody who just gets started, I mean, there's millions of people out there that just want to have a record, or they want to be famous, or they want this and that, but they don't really know how to do it. So a company like yours can help an indie artist, really kind of excel their career. And I mean, is that something that you guys look to do? I mean, is that something that our listeners can go onto your website and learn more about yourselves?
Absolutely. And that was exactly why, again, it was founded in the first place, because I knew for a long time that artist development was something that was going to be lacking and hard to find, especially a formal way to where it's like, oh, I can work with this company. Oh, my momager or popager can meet with them, and it's very, open and professional. So we were just building that, man, and we have that. I feel like at this point, 5 years into this particular startup, we have a great system and a great team in place to help a singer. I mean, we've helped artists who are even in the middle of a rebranding too, like, not quite a beginner, but maybe going into their second EP and might just be looking for a fresh sound. We've even been able to help advanced artists like that. We're working with Ryan Toby, actually, who's a very established songwriter and singer, actor as well. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him since his City High days, when he was in City High. And we started talking again last year. We got back in touch, and then we actually have a song coming out with him top of the year. So he's going to be probably our most established sort of artist in person, that has a really established career that's actually going to do a collab with us. So it's growing. So if you're a singer and if you're looking for a unique experience, and just, you want to take your career in a different direction and maybe just start from scratch, we'd love to chat with you.
Thesingerscompany.com, correct? Thesingerscompany.com.
Yeah.
So everybody check that out. I was on your website for the last couple of days. I really like your website. It's very well done, and it really gives a nice overview of everybody that works for your company and what their history is and what they can do to help you out. So I think that's amazing. And it's not just all music people. I mean, you have some people somebody out there that's in Europe that is an educator, basically. So that's amazing to me.
Sophia, she's into publishing, education. She writes children's books and novels. Yeah. Cool. We're a diverse group and it's growing. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just happy to be a part of it and be someone that had an idea and was, smart enough to go to people and see who wanted to be a part of it and could help me found it and put it together.
It's amazing. Yeah, well done. It looks like an amazing company. And the other thing, Roy, I want to get into. I just want your opinion on something, because it's something that it really bugs me, because the younger people nowadays, I feel like old saying that, but I am 55. But what younger folks that are coming up, and the younger generation, it bothers me that they don't know the history of music, I guess, as much as we did growing up, because I used to listen to my mom's albums from the 70s and 60s and used to just, as I grew older, I would appreciate, like Helen Reddy and Dolly Parton and, all these folks that, that I listened to when I was a kid. And now I'll say these names to people that are in their 20s. They don't even know what I'm talking about. They're like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so do you think it's social media and streaming kind of, it's good in one way? Obviously, it's great for artists and people to consume music. But do you think it kind of also is deteriorating our history of music and the fact that, because these people have a legacy, and I'm afraid that when young people, as generations keep going on, that these people will be forgotten about. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Wow. Okay. So me having a grandfather that, is recently trending again, right, through social media, I think we do have a way that we can remind and restore legacies and remind artists about where we came from, musically. So I think it is important, but that's one of the things that we do as well. Like, we sit with artists, and when I can hear a similar tone, whether they even know about an artist or not, I will bring up an artist. It's an opportunity. For instance, recently working with this one young lady, and for some reason, she reminds me of Nina Simone. I don't remember if she might have known the name, but I know she didn't know much Nina Simone music. So for a couple sessions, Dave, we just sat and listened to Nina Simone. Just we're going to go on a deep dive and play some songs, right? And I even got her to start learning one of Nina's songs that is kind of sits in her key range, and because I heard the similarity, right? So what social media is not showing the young folks, I think it's on us, people like us that are like hybrids, right? We're from that time, but we're also teaching and mentoring in this time, in this space. So it's on us, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
When I worked with Ann Nesby, she did her influence was Mahalia Jackson. I mean, so people, if you get folks like that, and I became a fan, instantly, just her talking about. So you're right. I think it is about our generation. We need to keep that legacy alive, and unfortunately, I don't think it happens enough. But if we continue to do that, like you said, use social media to do that, I think people will really start appreciating it. It's just an observation that I made. A lot of younger folks don't know these older names, and I like to keep them alive, through through music. So
I just watched the Mahalia Jackson. Again, I saw it a long time ago, but I saw the one called "The Power and the Glory." Have you seen that documentary? I just recently saw that one again.
Good, yeah. Those are amazing. I love watching documentaries about old, singers and
yes,
old movies and things like that. And we have TCM, we have the Turner Classic Movie on station on almost all the time. And I'll mention these actors that we're watching. They're like, who's Cary Grant? Who's this? Who's that? I'm like, hey, come on now. Yeah, but anyway, I get teach. That. It is up to us to keep that legacy alive. But one of the things I want to ask you is advice. Because obviously we have young artists listening, and from your years of experience in the business, what kind of advice? What's your main piece of advice that you can give somebody just starting in this business?
Do your research. Be a student. I would say what we were just talking about. Because everyone has influences, but what's interesting? The younger artists, the artists that they admire, don't realize that there was a forerunner before that artist that they got it from.
Yeah.
So it's like when you go back to the origin of it, they're really blown away, right? It's like when you go back and realize that Beyonce grabbed stuff from Tina Turner. You're like, wait, who was Tina Turner? You're like, oh, wait a second, and then Kim Burrell and the gospel, it's like,
exactly.
When they go back to the origins. So I would say student, man, be a student and go back and really learn, where these styles are coming from and where it started. And then, the second thing is, I think some artists are struggling with the fact that they're not getting a lot of support from family about their, I have some artists I work with, and they're like, oh, I don't know, my parents, don't really take that what I'm doing seriously and things like that. And specifically for those people, I want to encourage them to continue going after your dream, because your tribe will appear. You'll find that support group at some point. So don't give up just because, your parents aren't totally on board, as rightly so, because the music industry could be a very harsh and dangerous place as well. But at the same time, there are also very good people in the business. I've been fortunate to meet my share of amazing people who treated me very, very fairly and helped me a lot as well. So there are good people there. And if you can have a momager or a papager that's got your back, you're super lucky and blessed. But if you don't, like I said, there are still tons of great resources and people for the artists that are kind of going it alone. You won't have to go at it alone for long. If you're passionate about it and you really got the chops and you're diligent, your tribe will arrive. That's my pieces of advice.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. I think also just being yourself and doing what's true to yourself. And like you said, that those people will eventually, attract to what you're doing. And, when it's all said and done, Roy, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind when people think of Roy Hamilton III?
That's a great question. That I left more on the table than I took, man. Each time, each situation. I'd say that right there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Definitely.
I love that. First of all, I can't thank you enough, Roy, for being on the show. Your amazing work has been seen and heard by so many people. And, I just want them to go, look you up. And how can they find you on social media? You have social media out there they can find you at?
I recently got an Instagram. It's at Roy Hamilton Music. But mostly at the Singers Company is our main socials. I've been spending quite a bit of time on our podcast and our show as well, interviewing artists and talking about music and paying it forward. So you can find me there as well. And our website has a contact page. If anybody wants to reach out, just email there and say you have a question for me specifically. And I'm really good about replying to emails in a timely fashion. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
thesingerscompany.com. Again,
Right.
Roy Hamilton III, thank you so much again for joining the show, and my best to you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.